Hey everyone, just making a quick video around what to do if you're kind of weight loss plateaus, or just some of the kind of the factors involved in kind of weight loss in general, and what can help shift you onto another kind of level if your weight loss or fat loss is a better term, I suppose, is kind of stalled. There's just a question on the page, so it's kind of opened up a whole other discussion around it. So I'll try and be brief with it, but there's a few different kind of factors that contribute. So essentially, the first thing is that if you're on a fat loss kind of process and you've been losing weight or losing fat, it'll never be linear in the sense that it'll never always be start here and just go down and it's like a pound a week and it's just happy days. It'll always be like, some weeks you'll lose two or three, and the next week you might go back up one, and the next week you might be level, and then you drop down again. And there's just a load of different factors going on in the body that cause those plateaus. And our body is always striving for equilibrium and balance in everything, in like our hydration levels, in our blood sugars and insulin. Like our body is always kind of balancing things out. And essentially that's what happens when we have our energy in versus our energy out, which is going to be the number one factor ultimately in terms of like your weight or your physique or your size. So over like the course of a year, if your weight has stayed the same, you've more or less figured out, your body's figured out how much calories you need to take in versus the amount of calories that you kind of burn day to day and with your exercise. And if your weight has stayed the same, more or less you've kind of just unknowingly just kind of had taken in the amount that you kind of burn, and they just kind of level off and cancel each other out essentially. Now there's other factors at play, but that's the most basic kind of outline for it. So for the rest of your days, the two most important factors for you changing your physique are always going to be that calorie balance. And the two factors that you can contribute or you can actually adjust and fix are always going to be exercise. So the amount of calories you burn from exercise, so you can either increase that by increasing the intensity or doing a different form of exercise, and nutrition is the amount of calories you take in, so you can kind of drop them down. So if you do a bit of both, that's going to give us best results. So when we kind of reach plateaus, which is perfectly normal, essentially what's probably tended to happen, or why you haven't ever got below a certain level, is that like you've kind of got to a level that cancel each other out. So something needs to change a little bit. Now, our body also wants to be very efficient at everything it does. So if you go for a run and you do the same run 20 times, your body burns less energy the 20th time compared to the first time, because your body becomes more efficient, and it says, look, we know she's going for this 5k run, we know the drill, we don't need to burn, we can conserve energy. And that's what our body is ultimately trying to do a lot of the time. So that's why we need to constantly throw different types of workouts and different tasks at our body. So like that's why we're doing like high intensity interval training. So you're doing stuff where your heart rate is up and down, you're you're stressing your cardiovascular system and your heart and lungs, and you're stressing your muscles. Now, having said that, if someone is like, if someone is really stuck and they need a change to give their weight loss or fat loss a kickstart, something like the elimination diet is good then, because again, you're throwing something totally different at the body. Another thing that you can do to do something different is if you haven't been doing any weights, like, or you've always been doing low weights, to up the weight, so you're increasing the intensity that way. Or even if you're always doing the kind of HIIT style workouts, maybe it's going out for a run maybe once a week and just trying to do a long slow run once a week and just building up that aerobic capacity. Like often it's just these little things that maybe you haven't been doing, and you do that and it just kind of flicks a switch, and you throw something new at your body, and then you end up burning more energy, or your body reacts in a certain way. Because if we're constantly if we're constantly even in a calorie deficit, our body becomes used to that. So that's why we encourage people to have a cheat meal once a week, because if you're constantly in a calorie deficit and you're constantly eating less kind of food, your body will slowly adapt to that. So it's good to actually throw some more calories at it, and we don't really care what form that comes in. So yeah, that's a kind of like, there's a good bit in that, or kind of a lot on it. So essentially, if you are like, oh yeah, the other thing I meant to say, I nearly forgot, is the other thing is that the weighing scale is only one measure of your, it's only one factor, so it's only one thing. So I would encourage everyone to have other measures that go along with a weight. So either it's a picture, so take your own pictures, or it's the measurements, which are the instructions are in the file. Because if you weigh 10.5 stone today, and then in 6 weeks time you weigh 10.5 stone. But you have pictures. Obviously, the pictures will show the difference. So you'll know by your pictures, you'll know by your clothes, and obviously, if they're different and your inches are lower, you've changed your body composition. So you're still the same weight, but you've less fat than you did before. And you've obviously, if you're the same weight, you've lost fat and put on muscle, which is ideal. That's exactly what we want. The other thing then to measure is like just have some rudimentary kind of test measures. Like, can you do a plank for a minute? How many push-ups can you do? If you're in a gym, is it like a certain weight you can lift, or a certain workout? Can you keep the pace with Brian for the full workout? Do you need breaks? Like, have other measures, because if you're not measuring anything, you don't really know if you've gotten fitter or not. And if you weigh the same in 6 weeks time, but you actually, like, your initial reaction would be like, crap, I'm the same weight, I haven't lost any weight. But if you're fitter, or you're stronger, or you're doing intermediate workouts or advanced, and you were doing beginner, you've obviously gotten fitter, faster, or stronger. And the only way you can perform better is if, like, you have built some muscles. You've either built new muscle or you've built stronger muscle than the muscle that you did have. So, like, that's why we really don't want people just focusing on the weighing scale, because it's literally only one measure, and it's not a worthless measure. Obviously, if someone has a lot of weight to lose, that it'll show on the scale and it is rewarding. But like, it's I would see it as being pretty worthless on its own. It doesn't tell me a whole lot compared to what like a weighing scale will tell me, along with a picture and along with some inches and along with maybe some basic performance stuff. So, yeah. So like, look, even if there is plateaus, they're to be expected. There's often no harm in it. Like, our body is always recalculating and trying for that equilibrium. And often, like, I've had clients before that have lost a lot of weight, and like, I've actually encouraged them to take a break and let your body recover and recuperate a little bit. Like, people that have lost like 20 pounds in 6 weeks or something like that, and because you can even lose a lot of salts and electrolytes and other stuff, but like, it's good for the body to kind of recover, adapt, and then go again. So that's why that plateau is natural enough. But if you're gotten to a stage and you feel like you've never gotten below that stage, maybe when you get to that stage you become less disciplined, because you kind of go, well, I'm actually in that, I can get away with it a bit now. So maybe there's an element of that too. But if there's not, it just means that something needs to change a little bit. So you need to either work out harder, or maybe throw a different type of workout at your body, or be extra strict on your food. So like, no unearned carbs, or actually tracking it or something like that, and getting into it a little bit more in more detail, essentially. So yeah, sorry, 8 minutes, but hopefully that helps.